Hi, everyone. I just want to do a quick sound check first. Can everyone hear me? Test. Can everyone hear me? I want to check the audio. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. All right, awesome. So we're going to get started in about a minute. Let's just wait for a few more people to stream in, and then we can begin the class. All right, let's get started. Welcome, everybody, to this introductory SQL class. My name is Giri. I go by GPAL. I'm a self-taught programmer. And since the start of this year, I have taught introductory programming to over 3,000 students online. And I absolutely enjoy learning and teaching programming. One of the main reasons why I teach these free online classes is because when I was trying to learn programming itself, I found it so difficult to be disciplined, to keep going. There was just lack of structure. At the same time, I couldn't afford all those expensive coding bootcamps. So I wish there was some kind of an intermediary solution to create some kind of structure for people to learn. And that's why this is my way of giving back to the community. So here's the game plan for today. The goal is I want everybody here to be able to use SQL to analyze data sets. I want you to feel confident about using SQL to analyze data sets. And in this 1 hour session, we are going to mainly focus on the fundamentals of SQL. There are lots of peripheral things that you can learn about, but the focus today, in the very short time that we have, is going to be on the fundamentals of SQL. So what are we going to learn? We're going to learn about how you can retrieve and filter data. And at the same time, at the end of this whole class, we're going to have this practice exercise where you're going to get a chance to apply the skills that you have learned. So there are 3 main principles that guide all the classes that I teach. The first is that we learn best by practice. So don't take this class as a passive exercise. There are going to be exercises that we're going to do together. Follow along, type out the code. That's the best way to learn. The second is the 80-20 rule. And what that is essentially 80% of the value of learning programming comes from learning 20% of the concepts. So the focus today is really going to be on the most critical 20% that gives you 80% of the value. And the third idea is that peer-to-peer learning really makes learning far more effective and more fun as well. So if you have any questions, go ahead, ask it in our Discord channel. Go ahead, ask me as well. Let's make this work. So the 2 tools that we're going to be using today, the first is our Discord server app, and the second is data.world. So Discord server is the place for you to ask all questions and get all updates. And if you haven't signed up for it, this is the link to sign up for it. And I'm going to show you the specific channel that we're going to be using today. So there are lots of different channels, but the channels I want to highlight specifically are the in-class discussion section, the programming exercises channel. So if you have any questions throughout this session, go ahead, type out your question. I'm going to be answering it. There are going to be others who can help you out as well. So the programming exercises channel is the go-to place for you if you have any questions throughout this class. So go ahead and log into our Discord server app if you haven't. The next tool, and this is going to be very important, that we're going to use to learn SQL is called data.world. So the nice thing about data.world is that it allows you to code on the browser. That means that you don't have to download anything, which makes coding a lot more convenient. And another benefit of using data.world is that it allows us to access cool data sets, and it's also free. So let's go ahead and sign up and perform our first SQL query. So go to data.world and sign up for an account. And after you have done that, just sound out, and then we can proceed to getting our hands dirty with code itself. So go ahead, create an account on data.world. And after you're done, just sound out so that I know that we can proceed on. All right, anyone has any issues signing up for data.world? It shouldn't take that long. All's good? Okay, awesome. Let's keep going. So the nice thing about data.world, as I mentioned earlier, is that they have lots of cool data sets. So the data set that we are going to be using to analyze, to apply our SQL skills is called FAA bird strikes. So it's 2000 to 2011 bird strikes plane. So go ahead and click that data set. And after you click that data set, what you want to do is you want to hit launch workspace and then go to the left side and click new query. Okay, awesome. So let me just explain what this data set contains. So if you want to take a look at the data, what you do is go to the top left-hand corner, birdstrikes.excel, click that, and you can take a look at all the data. So let me explain what this data set contains. So the Federal Aviation Authority requires airlines to report cases in which birds and wildlife strike the plane. So whenever that happens, the airlines typically report that back to the FAA, and the FAA release the data set for the public. So this is the public data set from the years 2000 to 2011. So we're going to dig deep into this data set using SQL. So that whenever you have a data set, the first thing you want to do is take a look at the columns in the data set. So you want to quickly kind of scan through what's the structure of the data set like. So in this case, you have record ID, you have the name of the airport, you have the number of wildlife that has been struck, the impact on the flight, the effect indicated, the number of engines of the aircraft, whether the remains of the wildlife were collected or not. So there are lots of columns here. It's a very rich data set, and let's go ahead and dig into it. So click New Query, click SQL Query. Okay, so now what you want to do is whenever you want to access all the rows of data, what you do is, let me type this out and let me explain what this is doing. You say select from, and then you enter the name of the table. In this case, it's bird strike. So let's run this query and let me explain what's going on later. So run the query. And what's going to happen is it's going to give you all the columns and all the rows. So when we say select, So the nice thing about SQL is that it's very similar to natural language. So in this case, when you say select and you have this asterisk symbol, it's what you're saying is go ahead and select every single column and just give me every single row in this data set. So now, if you take a look at the results that you have outputted, it's every single column. Now, that's not super convenient. Imagine you just want to know the record ID and the airport name for analysis. So how would you go about doing that? Pretty simple. You just enter the name of the column itself. So let's say I want to know the record ID, and then I want to know the name of the airport as well. So I'll just type that in. Right. You want to enter the names of the columns in the order that you want the results to be outputted, and then you run the query. Let's run the query. And now you find that you get just the specific columns that you want to see. Okay. So all this while, we have been getting all the rows of data for the specific columns that we have selected. That isn't how we typically use SQL. Often what you want to do is that you want to filter the results. So one of the columns that's very interesting to me is whether the pilot was warned of birds or wildlife or not. And it has the value of either true or false. So let's say I want to know all the rows. I want all the rows in which the pilot was in fact warned of birds or wildlife. How would I go about doing that? Let me type out the code and let me explain what's going on. So I want all the rows, right? So I would say select asterisk. And what's the table that we are dealing with? It's called bird strikes. So bird strikes. And if I want to filter the results, the keyword that you need to use is called where. So you type in where, and you insert the specific column value that you want to check. In this case, we want to check the value for this specific column. So we would say pilot warned of birds, birds or wildlife. And I want to get the value where it's true, right? So let's go ahead, run the query. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at that specific column, whether pilots were warned of birds and wildlife or not. So let's zoom ahead to that column. Yeah, this is the column that we were interested in, right? And we said that, look, just give me the results. Just give me all the rows from the table where this specific column, pilot warned of birds or wildlife, is equal true. And so we have successfully filtered that condition. Now, in this case, we have filtered based on a text value. Let's say you want to filter based on a numerical value. So one of the interesting variables here is cost total. Let's say we want to know all the cases in which the total damage done is more than $10,000. Okay, so what we would do is instead we would key in the specific column that we want to check. In this case, that is cost underscore total, and we use the typical numerical operators like equal, greater than, equal than. These are the typical symbols that we use to check. So in this case, let's say I want to know all the rows in which the cost of total damage exceeds $10,000. So what I would put in is I would put in this greater than symbol. Now type in 10,000. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's run that query. Okay, now let's zoom ahead to the cost total column, and let's see if we got the right results. So let's see. Yep, there we go. So we said that we wanted all the cases in which the cost of total damage was more than 10,000. So when you take a look at that specific column right now, you find that the damage done is the cost total reported is in fact more than $10,000. So one of the questions that people often have is, okay, GPAL, this is all great. You can filter based on one condition, but let's say you want to filter based on multiple conditions. How do you go about doing that? And for that, you use the and or operator. So imagine you want to get all the results in which the origin state, which is this column. Let me show you that column. Let's come back here. Okay, so this is the origin state, right? Let's say you want to get all the results where the origin state is either New York or New Jersey. So this is where you're going to be using the or operator. So let me show you how that works. So what's the column that's of interest for us? It's origin state. So let's put that in. Origin state equal, you type it in, New York, or, and then you're going to type in the column again. This trips people up, but if you have multiple conditions, you need to specify the column again, even if it's the same. So you still need to type in origin state equal New Jersey. And then I've got a typo here. Let me fix that. Okay. So let's run this query and let's see what we get. So let's zoom past to the columns of interest. In this case, origin state. So now what you find is all the results that have been outputted are the cases in which the origin state is New York or New Jersey. I'm trying to find a New Jersey. Scroll down. Yep, there we go. So it's either New York or New Jersey. So that's the or operator. But let me show you how the and operator works. So in a case of an or operator, if either one of these conditions is met, that row is included in the output, right? So it can be either New York or New Jersey. You just need to hit one of those conditions. You satisfy them, boom, the result comes up. So let's use the and operator. So let me show you an interesting column here. So there's this interesting column called wildlife size. So that's the size of the wildlife that struck the plane and the effect that it had on the plane. Let me find that out. Effect that it had on the plane. Yep, effect. Impact of the flight. Let's say you want to get the results where the size of the wildlife that struck the plane was large and the impact to the flight was a precautionary landing. So how would we do that? It's pretty intuitive. You would key in the columns of interest. In this case, it's wildlife size equal large, because I want to get all the cases in which the wildlife that has struck the plane is large, and I want to pull all the results where the impact on the flight was a precautionary landing. You got to key that in. Precautionary landing. Okay, let's run that query right now. Let's zoom past to the column of interest. So now you find that all the results that have been outputted are cases where the effect on the plane was a precautionary landing and the wildlife size was large. Let me show you that. Yeah. So the way the and operator works is that both the column conditions have to be met for that result to be outputted. So imagine there's a row in which the wildlife size is large, but the impact of the flight was nothing. That row wouldn't be outputted. So both the conditions need to be met in an and operator, and it is technically possible to string multiple and conditions. So we have two conditions right now, but you can theoretically add infinite conditions. So I want to pause here for a second before going on to the idea about how you can order your results. Any questions right now? I want to just pause and get a feel for whether everybody's following along. Any questions about this? Is everything making sense? Okay, I want to do a quick pulse check. Everyone doing okay? Okay, awesome. If you have any questions, just pop it in and I can help you out. So let's keep going. So all this while, what you see, the results that we have outputted have no order in them. It's just like all jumbled up. It looks pretty random, right? So let's say we want to order the results. How can we do that? Because without that, it looks really messy. So let me show you how that works. So let's say I want to order the results based on the total damage done. I want to get all the results. I want to have the results, the rows where the total damage done is the highest at the very top. So let me show you how that can be done. So select all the rows from bird strikes. Okay, that's per normal. And what we do is we include this line phrase called order by, and then you have to include the specific variable that you want to order the results by. And in this case, let's say we want to order it by cost total. All right. Let's see. Yep. Okay. So that's the name of the column. So cost total. Okay. Let's see what happens first, and let me tell you what else we need to do. Okay. Cool. Let's see what we've got. Let's take a look at cost total. So there's some order in our results, but wait a second. We said that we wanted the highest, the highest damage cases where the damage was highest at the very top. So what this shows is that if you just have order by, what happens is the results are ordered by ascending order, meaning the smallest values are put at the very top and the largest values are at the bottom. But if you want the largest values at the top, i.e. descending order, you need to include the keyword DESC. So let's see how results change when we include this keyword DESC, which stands for descending order. Let's run the query again. Okay, and let's take a look at cost total. Okay, let's scroll there. Great. Now this makes sense, right? There's order in our results and it's in descending order. The case where the damage was highest is at the very top, and then it keeps declining from there. So wow, this is a big number. So a bird strike caused, I think this is $12 million in damage. Yeah, that's the case where the damage was the highest. Okay, so that's how order by works. So all this while we have been mainly getting results. We have been filtering them. We haven't been doing any numerical analysis on the data. Often when you work with data, you want to understand things like, what's the average damage done? How many people have been injured? You want to have some kind of a summary statistics on the data. So let me show you how we can do that right now. So let's pull this out. Okay. So let's say you want to know the total sum of all the wildlife that have been struck by planes. So that's this specific variable. Let me show you the variable. Yep, let's say you want to sum up this variable, right? You want to know what's the total sum of the wildlife that have been struck by these planes. So the way that you would do that is, instead of saying select asterisks or select specific columns, you would say select sum. Sum is a keyword. Now, in case you're wondering, how do you remember all these keywords? I'm going to pass everybody like a cheat sheet with all the main keywords that we ran through in the class. So don't worry about that. Just follow along, try it out with me. So sum, and then you include that specific column that you want to sum up. In this case, it's wildlife number struck underscore actual. So let's put that in. Wildlife number struck actual. Okay. And let's run this query and let's see what we get. Excellent. So we find that from 2000 to 2011, about 68,000 plus wildlife were struck by planes. And let's say you want to get both the sum of the number of people injured as well as the number of wildlife struck. So all that means is you just put in a comma and you put sum. And let's say you want to sum up the number of people injured. Okay, you just insert that column. So I want to demonstrate here that you can have multiple numerical statistics done at the same time. Number of people injured. Okay, let's run that again. Now you're going to see an extra column. Great. Right, so you find that 27 people were injured. Now, when you look at this data, the way it's outputted, it isn't that neat because it doesn't say, you know, which number reflects the number of wildlife struck versus the number of people who have been injured. So the way that you get around that is by using this keyword called as, and then you include the specific title that you want. So in this case, the first number is the wildlife that have been struck. So I'll put that in, wildlife struck. And then the second column is the number of people injured. So just type in as people underscore injured. And now if we run this query, yeah, this looks a lot better, right? Because now we have changed the column names to be something a bit more intelligible. So sum is one of the key concepts, key statistics, summary statistics that you would be doing. Let me run through a few more that are commonly used. Another one that's commonly used is average, and the keyword for that is AVG. So you would say select AVG and then insert the specific column that you want to sum up. Let's say you want to know what's the average cost total, the damage caused by these wildlife. So what you would do is you just type in AVG cost total. Okay. And let's say you want to apply as AVG damage. Let's run the query. Okay, so now you find that the average damage cost is about 5,500 or so. So AVG is another keyword that a lot of people use when it comes to summarizing data. And I'm going to run through three more summary statistics, and then we're going to move on to the next concept. Another one that's commonly used is count. So count allows you to just add up cases. So let's say I want to just count. Let's say I want to count the cases where the damage done, but where in fact some kind of damage was caused, right? So I would just say select asterisk from bird strikes, and we want to filter the results here, right? So where, and let's say the column of interest is effect indicated damage. Okay, effect indicated damage equal caused damage. Okay, and let's see the cases where the bird strikes or wildlife strikes did in fact cause some kind of damage. You run the query and you find that it's about 2,400, 2,500. Let's say you want to know the cases where the cost total was greater than let's say $10,000, right? So what you would do is you just keep everything the same, and then you just key in the new condition. Say cost total more than 10,000. So this is going to add up all the rows in which the total damage done was more than 10,000. Okay, so count is another keyword that's used. Minimum and maximum are other keywords. So let me quickly show you how that works. So let's take a look at all the data again very quickly. Let's say you want to know, okay, let's take a look at one interesting column. Let's say we want to take a look at, let's see. Okay, let's take a look at feet above ground. You want to know the case in which the altitude at which the strike happened. Let's say you want to know the minimum feet above the ground, the smallest value. So how would you do it? Pretty intuitive. You would say select min, okay, min feet above ground, which is the specific variable of interest, from bird strikes. So let's run that. And let's see what result we get. So 0 is the minimum feet above the ground. So there were some wildlife or bird strikes that did happen at ground level. Let's check what the highest altitude at which a strike happened. So instead of min, what you would say max, say MAX, and let's see the highest altitude at which a strike happened. So run the query. Okay, so 18,000 is the altitude. 18,000 feet is the altitude at which the highest bird strike or wild strike happened. So max and min are also super helpful keywords. I want to show you one last keyword before moving on to how you can use the group by function, which is super helpful. And the keyword that I want to show you is called distinct. So let's say you just want to see all the aircraft airline operators who are involved in some kind of a strike. So for that, as you may recall, if you just want to get that column, you insert that specific column, which is in this case, let's see. Let's take a look at all the data again real quickly. Right, and that's going to be, yeah, it's going to be this column, right? You want to take a look at you want to get a list of all the aircraft airline operators who are involved in some kind of a bird strike. So what you would do is you would just type in the column, right? Aircraft underscore airline operator. Okay, let's put that in, and let's see what we get. So yes, you do get all the you get all the rows with the aircraft airline operators, but there's one problem, and that's that we have duplication of results. Take a look at row 17. You have Southwest Airlines, and then row 19, you have Southwest Airlines again. So that's not super helpful. So if you want to deduplicate the results, right, meaning you just want the unique results, the way that you go about doing that is by including this keyword called distinct, D-I-S-T-I-N-C-T. And what it does is that it removes all the duplicated results. So now when you take a look at the results, you don't see any duplication. And let's say we want to order it by alphabetical order. So you just key in the name of the column again. It's going to make it a lot neater. So you run the query. Oops. I forgot to include this one. Run the query. And now it's all neatly organized in an alphabetical order. There isn't any duplication. So this is a lot neater. So distinct is a keyword that helps you take away all those duplicated results. It outputs only the unique results. Before I show you how to use group by, which is super, super helpful, any questions so far? Everybody following along? Any issues along the way? Okay, awesome. So everybody following along, that's great. So I want to show you how the group by function works, but I want to kind of give you an explanation of why this is so helpful. So all this while, we have been taking a look at individual pieces of data, meaning, we have been saying, look, SQL, go ahead and sum up all the number of wildlife that have been struck, or find the average number of people who have been injured because of these crises. That is fine, but sometimes what you want to do is you want to segment the data and analyze it separately. So meaning, let me show you this. Let's take a look at all the data again, and let me show you why this is super helpful. I'm going to kind of show you the motivation of using this. Take a look at all the rows again. And let's take a look at this specific column called conditions sky. Let me take a look at that. Yeah. So there's this very interesting column called conditions sky, right? And you have a number of different responses for it: no cloud, some cloud, overcast, and so on. So let's say you're interested to know whether the damage done is greater. There's some kind of a relationship between the condition, the weather condition, and the damage done. For that, what you need to do is you need to segment the data based on the condition sky, meaning you're going to say, look, SQL, go ahead, cluster all the cases in which the condition sky is no cloud. Put all the cases in which the condition sky is some cloud, and all the cases in which the condition sky is overcast. And for all those unique subgroups, tell me the average damage done, right? So you need to be able to do that, but you can't do that just using average. So that's where this keyword called group by comes in really handy, because it allows you to segment the data. So let me show you how that can be used. So once again, let's say we want to know so what we need to do is we need to key in the specific output columns to begin with. So let's say we want to see the condition sky. So key that in. And we want to know the average cost total, right? We key AVG, right? Cost total. Okay. This is all as per normal, but after we enter the name of the table, this is where we would be using the keyword group by. And we said that, look, we want to cluster it based on, we want to group it by this condition sky. Okay, so we type in conditions sky. Okay, and let's see what results we get and how we can improve it. So let's run the query. Okay, great. So now, based on the weather conditions, we have the average damage done. But when you take a look at this data, it doesn't look that neat, because you have the highest value in between, and then you want the data to be ordered in a neat way, right? And we know how to do that. The way that we do that is we use the keyword order by. So let's put that in at the end of the statement, order by. And we want to order it by this value, right? So pretty straightforward. We type in AVG, cost total. And remember, by default, it's going to be in ascending order, meaning the smallest value is going to be at the top and the largest value is going to be at the bottom. But let's say we want it to be in descending order, meaning the highest value at the top. So for that, we would enter the keyword DESC. And let's run the query. Excellent. So now what happens is you get the cases in which the average cost is highest. And it seems to make sense, right? When the weather condition is overcast, the damage done is the highest. And when it's no cloud, it's like 5,500, and some cloud, it's 4,500. Okay. So for those who are a bit more well-versed in Excel, you can think of this as, this is a bit like pivot tables, but I think it's a lot more intuitive than pivot tables. So this group by concept is somewhat similar to pivot tables for those who are a bit more experienced in Excel. So in this case, we have just segmented the data by one condition, which is condition sky. Let's say we want to know, whether there's some kind of a relationship between not just the weather condition, but also whether the pilot has been warned of the birds, the bird or wildlife as well. So the way that we would do that is, in addition to including condition sky as a column, after group by, we would also insert the new column that we want to take a look at. And let's say in this case, it's pilot warned of birds or wildlife. So let's put that in. Pilot warned of birds or right? And let's say we want to see that result in the output as well, right? So that column. So we put that here as well. Warned of birds. Right? Let's run the query right now. So now what's happening? Let me just explain. Previously, we said we wanted the results to be ordered by just this one condition. Now what's going to happen is it's going to segment it separately. So whenever the condition is overcast and the pilot has been warned of birds or wildlife, that's one group. When the conditions are overcast but this pilot hasn't been warned, that's another group. So you're going to segment it two ways, right? And let's see what's the result we get. So let's take a look. So when the conditions are overcast and the pilot hasn't been warned of possible wildlife, that's when the damage is highest. And that seems to make sense, right? Because when the weather is really cloudy and the pilot hasn't been warned, that's when there's a greater chance of a bird strike happening. And then you can go down the road, when there's some cloud and the pilot has been warned, that's second. Then there's no cloud and the pilot has been warned, that's third. So group by is super, super helpful. I think it's just so much more intuitive than pivot tables, and it helps you answer some very specific questions about the data, and it really sharpens your analysis. So group by is super, super helpful. So now we've kind of gone through the main concepts in SQL. So I want you to have an opportunity to practice as well. So I've created a quiz for everybody to try out right now. So let me share the link with you. It's called tinyurl.com/iknowSQL. So if you key that in, you're going to get a quiz, and the quiz is based on this data set called the Forbes 2000 data set, which profiles like the Fortune 2000 companies. So go ahead and complete that quiz. It's going to take you about 10 to 15 minutes. So go to this URL and complete that quiz. So let me show you how it looks like. Right? So the whole quiz is based on this data set called the Forbes Global 2000, and you can see that link on that quiz as well. So go ahead. It's just 5 to 6 questions which apply all the skills that we have learned so far. So go ahead, spend about 15 minutes or so. So the time right now is about 6:12. At about 6:25, 6:27, let's reconvene back and I'll run through all the questions so that if you have any questions, you can find answers there. In the meantime, if you do have any questions, go ahead to our programming exercises channel and post it so that I can help and others in the community can help you out as well. So here's the link for those who haven't seen it. So I've posted the summary. I posted a summary of the class, the keywords that we went through on the programming exercises channel. So go ahead and take a look at that, and it's going to be super helpful as you do the quiz as well. All right, has everybody done question 1? Is that coming along well? Any problems with that? Okay, so we have some answers streaming in. Let's just take about another 5 minutes and then I'll go through the questions. Okay, take another 2 to 3 minutes to wrap up that quiz. And if you have any questions, just post it on our programming exercises channel. Okay, another 1 more minute. Lots of people have already submitted responses, so I'm just going to wait 1 more minute and then we'll go through the questions. Okay, so let's just go through the questions. A lot of people have already submitted responses, so I think let's just zoom ahead. So the first question for the quiz was, let's take a look. How many firms in the Forbes 2000 list are headquartered in New York? And the hint was to take a look at the headquarters column. So as always, what we want to do is we want to kind of get a sample of the data. So let's just quickly run through the whole data set. So you run the query. Let's get a feel for the data. So you see that you have the name of the company, the country of origin, profits, market value, revenue, headquarters, industry, and the state. Okay, great. So the first question was, how many companies are in fact headquartered in New York? And it's going to be based on this column. So what we want to do is, remember, we want to get a count here, right? We want to count, and the keyword is pretty intuitive, count, right? We want to get a count of all the rows from this table where this specific column, the headquarters column, headquarters is equal to New York. So let's put that in. And let's run the query and let's see what's the response we get. So you find that the answer is 70, right? So this is a straightforward question. So 70 is the response for this. Okay, let's go to the next question. So the next question is, how many firms in the Forbes 2000 list belong to either the airline or the electronics industries? So in the first question, we just had one condition, meaning we counted the instances where the headquarters was New York. But in this case, what we want to do is we want to filter by the industry. But the catch is we have two industries. So think about how you can join multiple conditions. It's using the OR condition, right? The OR keyword. So let's see how we can do that. So once again, we keep the same part, count, that stays the same. And instead of industries, the column of interest in this case is, instead of headquarters is industry. So where industry equal airline, or remember, we have to repeat the column of interest again. Industry equal electronics. Okay, cool. So what this is going to do is it's going to pull out all the rows where the industry is either airlines or electronics, and we're going to find the sum. We're going to get a count of all the rows which match either of these conditions. So you run the query and you find that the answer is 53. So let's choose that option. And the third question is, which company in the Forbes 2000 list posts the highest profit? Okay, so this is a case where we want to use the keyword order by, because it allows us to structure the results in a neat way. So let's see how we can do that. So let's say we want select, we want to select all the columns from this table, and we want to order it by the profits column, right, which is this, order by profits. But if we don't include the DESC keyword, the descending keyword, it's all going to be ascending order, meaning we're going to see the company that has the smallest profit. But that's not what we want. We want to see the company with the largest profit. So we need to include the keyword DESC. Let's run the query. And you find that Apple is the company with the largest profit. So let's take a look at the column section. Yeah, you find that it's in descending order. So Apple is the answer to the third question. So let's click that. Okay, so what's the fourth question? The fourth question is asking us companies from how many unique countries are represented in the Forbes 2000 database. The keyword here is unique. When you think about unique, you want deduplicated results, right? You want to use the keyword distinct, because that eliminates all the cases where you have the same row, duplicated rows. So, and you want to get a count. So how do we combine all those concepts together? We say select count, and we want to get a count of countries here, right? So country, but because we want distinct countries, we want to insert the keyword DISTINCT, distinct, from the list, from this table, okay, which is this long name here. So let's run the query, and you find that the answer is 62. There's 62 unique countries that have companies represented in the Forbes 2000 list. So let's go back to the quiz. So let's choose 62, which is this option. Okay, now the fifth question, which is a bit more tricky. Right, the fifth question is asking us which electronics firm in the Forbes 2000 list posts the highest profit? So we need to combine two concepts here. First of all, we want just results from electronics firms. So this is where we need to use the keyword where to filter out results. And we want to know the company that posts the highest profit. So this is where we need to use the keyword ordered by so that you can push up the results, the companies which have the highest profit. So the way that you combine all of that together is you say select asterisk, meaning you want all of the columns from this specific data set, which is called Forbes Global 2000_2016, where industry equal electronics, because we just want to filter out the results, the rows in which the industry is equal to electronics. And because we want to see the highest profit, we use the keyword order by profits. And we need to use the additional keyword DESC. So let's run the query and let's see what we get. So when you run the query, you find that, let's just double check to make sure we got the right results. So take a look at the industry. It's all electronics, which is great, meaning we have successfully filtered out the results. And when you take a look at the profits section, the profits column, you find that it's in descending order. You have the highest value at the top, and then it keeps winnowing down, just keeps declining from there. So what's the electronics company with the highest profit? It's Han Hai Precision, which is based in Taiwan. So let's go back to the quiz and let's select that option. Great. Now we are down to the last question. And the last question is asking us, Forbes 2000 companies from which industry post the highest average revenue? And the hint is that we need to use group by. Why do we need to use group by here? Because you want to segment the rows based on the industry, and then you want to take the highest average revenue for each one of those groups. So you want to cluster all the electronics firms together. You want to cluster all the banking firms together. And within those groups, you want to find the highest average revenue. So let's see how we can do that. So let's remove everything. So select, we want to know, the question we have to ask ourselves is, what is the output going to look like? We want to know the industry, and we want to know the average revenue, right? So we would say industry, and then average, you want to get the revenue, right? The revenue, which is this specific column. This column, okay, great. So let's put that in here, revenue. So this is how the output should look like, and it's all going to come from this specific table, okay? And we want to group by the industry, right? So group by industry, and we want to order the results with the highest average revenue at the very top. So we would use the keyword order by AVG revenue. Okay, and because we want the highest value at the top, descending order, we use the magic word DESC, and let's run the query, and let's see what we get. So you find that discount stores have the highest revenue. All these figures are in the millions, just in case you're wondering, and then it drops down. Drug retail, then you have thrifts and mortgage finance at the rock bottom. So discount stores have the highest average revenue industry-wide. So let's go back to the quiz, and we select discount stores, which is the right response, and let's sum it. And you view the score, and ta-da, we got 100. So that is pretty much what I wanted to cover for this introductory class. I run these classes weekly. Next week, I'm going to be taking a break, but I have posted the notes for this class. I'm going to post it on the class announcements channel, but I've also posted it on the programming exercises channel. And every week, what happens is usually I have different classes. Last week, we had a cryptocurrency class. The week prior, we had a GitHub class. Next week, I'm going to be taking a break. But after that, I'm going to be offering a data science class. And a friend of mine is going to be teaching TensorFlow and machine learning after that as well. So that is pretty much this class. And if you found this class helpful and if you wish to support me in any way, you can go to this link and just give me a small donation if you like to. That is it. And if you have any questions, feel free to just send me a message on our Discord server app. Thank you, everybody.